I prefer to stand up. I've been sitting in the car for 2 days to get here and tell you this story. So I'm happy I can start. I am responsible for the hiking route of the Sultan's Trail. We also have a cycling route for which Sadat is responsible. So I will not be talking about cycling, but hiking, so I don't get into his way. And I want to tell you about the Sultan's Trail, actually what it could mean and what it's all about. These are the four questions that I will be dealing with. What is it? What is the Sultan's Trail? What are we talking about? Who is using it? Why would they do that? And what can we do with it? What does it mean to us? To you then? Huh? I know what it means to me, but what could it mean to you? And there is the brief highlight is it's 2,500 kilometers of hiking trail, 2,200 kilometers of cycling trail between Vienna and Istanbul. That's why we call it Sultan's Trail, because this entire area has been dealing with the Sultan one way or another. This is not a popular name. We've been discussing about the elephant in the room that no one talks about, but everyone knows is about. In Bulgaria, they're even very hostile to the name. They say, this bloody Sultan stole our children, and you come and tell me here that we should have a Sultan's Trail. No way. And we even had guides turn their back on us because of the name. So, this is a controversial issue, but give me a better marketing name for such a trail. We've considered all kinds of alternatives, and I think we haven't come up with a better one yet. It's for cycling and it's for hiking, the two distinct activities requiring distinct facilities. We run through 8 countries, like it has been said before. This is a particular characteristic of the trail. It's not only countries, different peoples, different cultures, most importantly, different languages. Even worse, different scripts. Once I get into Serbia, I run into script I cannot read. When I get into Greece, they have another script I cannot read. I cannot even know where I am, which is a complicating factor, making it very interesting. You're out of the ordinary. On this trail, you're out of the ordinary, that's for sure. But the area is also rich, and that's been the main topic of discussion today. We are crossing quite a number of borders, which means that you go from one realm, one space to the next, making it even more interesting. And I've listed a few here. We've been walking along the Roman Empire borders for a long time, and intriguing to me is the Romans had road system, which I believe has been used by the Ottoman intensively also. A road system that existed, according to the sources, until the 14th, 15th century, and in 400 years somehow disappeared completely. So where is it? The Ottoman knew about it, they used it. Apparently they also maintained it, expanded it. So it was very lively 300 years ago. I think most of it is buried under asphalt, tarmac. But the Byzantine and Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire was a Greek culture. The Roman Empire was a Roman culture, a Latin culture. Somehow along the route, we come in an entirely different culture zone. The line has been somewhere around Pirot, I understand. But we've had the time of the great migrations. There have been people moving in, changing entirely landscapes culturally also. Do we find remnants of, course, the South Slavic people are a product of this. The Ottoman and Habsburgs had demarcation lines moving up and down the area. And of course, recently we had the Iron Curtain, which we also cross along this trail. So anyone who starts out in Vienna will be exposed to a number of rather abrupt changes he may or may not notice. And it would be a shame if he didn't notice. So we should help him, seeing what he looks at. And that's where you all come into place. And recently, Croatia has joined the Schengen zone and Euro, so it lifted some problems for travelers since January 1st, and now we can pay with our plastic card. In Serbia, we still have to use the local currencies. In Bulgaria, you can go back to not to euros, by the way. In Greece, we can go back to the euros again. So this is all, the nostalgic elements of traveling, which we know from the 50s. Some of it is preserved also along the Sultan's Trail. Okay. This is more. We have, and I will not talk about each one of them. We have a long list of marvelous destinations before we get to Istanbul. And I will just quickly skip through them. Please.
You showed Belgrade, and recently, very recently, this very particular landscape that you showed changed dramatically.
Yeah, I know.
No. And I will send you a new photo.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. We're in a turbulent environment, I know. So these are the capitals that we passed through, except for Edirne, which was the former capital of the Ottoman. But it's more than that. The smaller towns, which are just as interesting to visit and ask questions about. What am I looking at? What is this? It's entirely different from what people will experience in Western Europe. So, I think we have a destination trail because we go to Istanbul, but actually it's a chain of destinations, making it even more interesting. And the good thing is also, if you look at the map to the right, you don't have to do it all at once. There are major places along the road where you can fly to, if you want, cheaply, and pick up the trail where you left off last year, which is a very popular thing to do. We can drive all the way to Ilok, but I wouldn't advise to drive much further from Holland. It's quite a ways. But that, adds to the product that we offer. So we're talking about 2,500 kilometers of trail for hikelists and cyclists, distinct routes. An area with immensely rich history. If you're interested in it, you cannot avoid it unless you're very dumb and blind. You'll get a feel of it. We cross a number of borders. We meet all kinds of intriguing cultures, more or less visible, a very diverse landscape. I'll get to that back again a bit later. And a list of beautiful destinations and legendary hospitality. The Balkan region, of course, is legendary for its hospitality, which we should not ignore. And we think that we have an offering equivalent to two other big offerings in Europe. I'll get to that a bit later. I want to introduce you to just a few travelers, and so in case you think maybe this is an imaginary product, it's not. It's being used. These are just faces of people who have been using it very recently. And it's either cyclists or hikers. The lady down here, Susan Beckett, has just arrived in Istanbul yesterday, I think. She's an Australian, 67 years old, camping along the road, traveling alone. And we've had quite a number of women traveling alone this year, and also camping alone. So, in Western Europe, one of the first questions I usually get is it safe? Of course, this is a question I cannot answer. I don't know what feels safe to you. The statistic says it's safe, but these women prove that it's not very bad to do that, and you can survive. I think it's a much better answer than that I reassure anyone that it's safe, because what are my standards? This year we count 60% cyclists, 40% hikers. Last year it was about 50-50. And the same thing for men, women, which is also very notable. There's quite a number of women on the trail, about 50% of it. Also, alone or in pairs. So it's not only for the adventurous, daring male. The entire population can be interested in being on the trail. And we have, these are actually the countries that we have had visitors from. How do I get my figures from social media? So we have the lowest count of visitors on the trail, only the ones that publicize their activities on social media. And who doesn't is not in my counting. But I know there are more people on the road than we know about. That's also why I know where they're from. And, you know, this extends to Latvia, USA. Notably absent are Hungarians, Serbians, Bulgarians, not Turks. Turks are on the road. I don't have them in my list, but they're on the road. And these are usually people who live in Western Europe and walk back to Turkey and then go home to work again. Now, this is a figure that we need to look at closely. These are the visitors to Santiago de Compostela per annum. And there's a few remarkable elements in here. One, obvious to anyone, is the line going up. The line indicates a doubling of the figures every 10 years. This year, 450,000 people arrive in Santiago. In 10 years' time, there will be about 1 million. If this continues, which I don't think it will, because Santiago is getting overcrowded. People start complaining about the number of people on the road and all the discomfort that brings with it. But this is very important for us. Another important element is, you know, the dip is Corona, so we can ignore that because the line picked up right afterwards and continued as it did before. What does it actually mean? 4,500 people arrived in Santiago this year. They all had a long-distance hiking or cycling experience, which for most of them was a life-changing event. They experienced something that they didn't expect to know about before they left. They couldn't just imagine what would happen to them. And somehow they're so excited about this that they want to tell everyone. And most other people do not understand, so they can only talk to anyone who has a similar experience about the importance that it had for them. So, you know, they gather people that did it before and they chat and they think, oh, that was great and we are great and stuff like that. And another thing is they want to replicate it because it was so wonderful. This is exactly what happened to Sadat. He lives in Holland. He's a Muslim with a Turkish background. And he walked to Santiago and he was impressed, wasn't you? So, He was converted. He had the blessing from the bishop. He went with the blessing from the bishop. And he thought it was such a wonderful experience that next year or the year after, I forgot, he walked to Istanbul with a friend. And they said, wouldn't it be nice if this would be something like the Camino de Santiago? And so that's how the whole thing started 10 years ago. I walked to Santiago 5 times. And the 5th time I thought, this is getting too crowded. And then the next year I thought, well, if I don't want to go to Santiago again, where shall I go? So fortunately, Sadat went to Istanbul before. I thought, that's not a bad idea. Let's go to Istanbul. So I asked my wife, how about going to Istanbul on foot? And she said, no, it's a good idea. So we started out in Budapest and we walked to Paraćin in Serbia, and she got an injury and we had to stop. This is happening to most of the people that you have just seen on the screen. Most of them, I don't really know exactly, but I'm quite sure they all had previous experience walking to Istanbul, walking to Santiago, getting in love with the exercise of long-distance hiking, being in nature, close to the earth, close to the elements, meeting people, the unexpected, all these things that make this an exciting activity. 450,000 people are added to our market every year. 450,000 people come from Santiago now in September, wondering, what shall I do next year? So we need to reach them and say, we've got a destination for you. It's not such a bad one either. Walk to it. And of course, this is not we can discount on the figure. 50% of Spanish, they never leave Spain, so don't worry about them. And 10% or 20% are Koreans, they will not come back. Still leaving about 150,000 people, Europeans, who are getting addicted to this kind of activity, looking for destinations. We've got one, an exciting one. So you can see that happening. This is the map of routes to Santiago. It extends all the way up to Latvia. People are designing routes to Santiago from anywhere. Why? Even from Croatia. Why? Because it's addictive. It's a good thing to do. Even from southern Italy. Okay, so roughly 500,000 visitors per year. I'm rounding it off. Looking for a similar experience. Not wanting to go to Santiago again because it's too crowded. So these are strong motivators and strong market makers for us. Asking, what now? Rome, the road to Rome, is also interesting. It started 10 years ago, I think, to become popular. It has been there a long time, of course, since Cedric, or what's his name is, went from England to Rome, the road to Rome. This road to Rome exists. We've had a bishop in Groningen doing the same, so there's also a road from Holland to Rome. All clergy went to Rome, so there are many roads to Rome. But interesting about this picture is the Via Francigena, who organizes the road to Rome from England, extended its organization into France 2 years ago, successfully, incorporating France and Italy into one organization, promoting the trail, but also, very interesting, extending it beyond Rome to Bari. So, the idea of Rome as a destination has been overtaken by the road to Rome as an experience, which doesn't stop in Rome, you can continue. So what did we do? This is even worse. The BBC made a few programs about the route to Santiago. And it was very successful. Then they made one to Rome. And then people asked for the third one. And they said, let's go to Istanbul. And they called it Pilgrimage to Istanbul or to Constantinople. I said, well, I don't know how you are going to do it, but I wouldn't call it a pilgrimage route, but success. Yet, I have 4 applicants for our hiking experience this year, precisely because of this program. So somewhere it's people are getting hooked on it. They're looking at us as an opportunity for some experience that they expect. Recapturing. We have a route with a potential of, let's say, 1% of Santiago, 1%. Let's say that we can capture 1% of the visitors to Santiago, walking on our route for 3 weeks, spending 50 euros per day. We're talking about, revenue or money spent at least 5 million euros. At least. And this will double, for sure, in the next 10 years. And this is a very low estimate. 1% of all the people going to Santiago, all the other 99% will be walking somewhere else this year. By the way, next year we'll have another 100,000 added to the market. And my question is, how are we going to harvest this money? We need to pick it up. It's right there. It's ready to be picked. You and we need to do that. We need to do that in telling people of this opportunity, go there. And you need to do that by saying, great, good to see you. What can I do for you? And name your price. Basic marketing. And that's the main point I want to bring across to you today. There is an opportunity, a huge opportunity here, a growing opportunity, ready to be picked and taken. Then what are we doing about it? Together with the Turkish hiking group, the Cultural Roots Society, who maintains and utilizes trails in Turkey, like name a few. Antalya in the Antalya. Eh? Lithian Way, very popular. I don't know how many visitors the Lithian Way has, but quite a number. We got into an association linking England with southern Turkey along the Via Francigena up to Bari. And then we said, oh, well, we have the Via Egnatia crossing, Greece. And then we can pick up the Sultan's Trail in Edirne and take you to Istanbul. And then Cultural Roots Society, you pick them up, or Sadat pick them up with with other trails all the way onto southern Turkey. And we went to the Council of Europe and said, well, we would like to make this into a cultural route and get, the certificate of a cultural route. And then the Council of Europe replied, well, we do not, we do not honor itineraries as a cultural route, which is not true, but it was a convenient argument. Itineraries, routes, streets. We need to have a collection of culturally coherent collection of cultural monuments, which is called route, but you cannot get there because there's no road between them. You have to find out yourself how you get there. That's their perception of a route. I said, well, we have made it more easy. We've linked them all together, and you can just follow the line, you get there. But it didn't fit that definition. So we were very disappointed. We started another thing. Our Turkish friends are very persistent, and they want European investments in routes, these routes. So we applied for COSME project. It was denied on bureaucratic reasons. We applied again. We met the threshold, so we got enough, quality marks, but we didn't get the project. So we did it again. This time we hit the jackpot. So when I get back home, we'll be starting a project of 1.1 million euros to be run by the route from England, the Rome route, the Turkish routes, and us. And in practice, we will be working with two tourist regions in Bulgaria and in Turkey. All together in this project, we'll be educating or investing anywhere between 10,000 and 25,000 euros per small business with a good project proposal. So in the project is about 800,000 euros that we will be investing in tourism regions, specifically along these lines. I suspect the southern Italians will take a big chunk of it because they are very active in the project. They have a good organization and they know how to run it. But we'll be joining in with the southern Bulgaria region, the Trakia region, and the Turkish, the adjacent Turkish region around Edirne, which is, a big achievement. These areas do need impulses. There's a lot to be developed, and there are a lot of opportunities there. For our travelers, it's essential that it improves. So, we also joined the World Trails Network, which is currently making a European hub of trails to master political proper political efforts in convincing governments and educational government institutions that the trails need support. Because, you know, we use public infrastructure. The trail actually doesn't cost much, but developing a route, developing these kind of things does cost money. And it can help to invest in it and improve it, because we want to accommodate this growing number of people in Europe that want to walk, which is good for their health, and it's good for the regions that they go to. And in your terms, it's direct money into the local economy for ordinary things. So there couldn't be any harm in it, I would say. Right. So I think this is about what I wanted to tell you. We look for cooperation with local parties. We work with local incoming agencies to organize trips. We organize a spring walk for 10 people. Anyone that wants to join can join, up to 10. Then we ask a local tourism agency, these in each country one, make the reservations for us, because you speak the local language, and you can order an accommodation in Turkish or in Bulgarian or Serbian. I can also, but if anyone doesn't understand me, I'm stuck, which does happen. You know, we call a Bulgarian Oma or a grandmother saying, I would like to stay with you, and she says, boink. Huh? So it helps if a Bulgarian calls, and this will not happen, and we get there. We've been working with the Camping Association in Serbia, trying to get, a camping hiking trip organized. We like to work with Danube Connects, who have an invested interest in the cycling routes along the Danube, and actually addressing the same area as we do. We share a lot of the same interests. Actively working with suppliers, outdoor active, the tool suppliers that help you navigate through the country are important to us to work with. And small and medium enterprises like museums, accommodation holders, tour guides, all these professions are important to make the trail a success. And to me, a success is when many people visit the countries and enjoy it. And I think that is really possible. Okay. Oh, I just need to mention that we also are active in the academic field, but you have seen proof of that all day. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure there are lots of questions on this fascinating subject, so Mark, stay around. And first question comes from...
But you walked Camino 4 times, 5. Where did you start?
One time at home, 2.5 hours.
Okay, that's fine.
I started in Vézelay, I started in southern France, I started in Lisbon.
Pyrenees, France, Saint-Jean-de-Pied, 800 kilometers. 9. Great. And also I have a suggestion. You said that Sultan's Trail is not kind of regarded well in some countries, in some... yeah. Why wouldn't you call this trail, for example, Vienna Bosporus or Vienna Topkapi Museum in
Good names.
poetically.
But would it appeal to the travelers? I think, I just assume that all the plastics cards that we bring into the country will eventually dissolve any objection.
Maybe because this Santiago de Compostela is, of course, kind of a precedent, an example of what we try to emulate. How did they come to grow like this? Did they have initial sponsorship, and so, if so, by whom? And what made it so grow?
Okay, well, yeah, I will dwell on the question also for the Via Francigena in Italy, because the distinct models. The route to Santiago exists, of course, 1,000 years already. They had about 25 visitors in the 60s per annum. None, actually. Then in the 90s, the government of Galicia decided that here was an opportunity they should take, and they started investing in all the wells, water, along the road. So they took away the fear of thirst. Going to Spain, hot country, what happens if I cannot get some water to drink? So they said, no problem, all the wells are working. And then they started investing in accommodation, pilgrims accommodations, which were low cost, bunk beds, so you don't have to worry about getting a bed to sleep. By now, you have accommodations charging you 100 euros per bed in old castles, top-notch, 5-star hotels. They have visitors, some even on the Santiago route, who have golden cages, They attract all kind of people. The Via Francigena, the road to Rome, also exists 600 years or 400 years, I don't know. Maybe since Rome was established as a, church. And the Via Francigena decided to build a federation of local communities. So they have the Via Francigena Federation is built up of regions like Perugia and municipalities, cities, accommodation holders, guides, anyone interested in this kind of activity. And they hold an annual meeting and they decide on the course, and all these people bring together money to run a bureau with 5 professionals full-time, and their sole task is international marketing and running the organization. And this became successful after they got a mayor of one of the cities along the route who said, I'll go for it. And he started collecting mayors in this federation, said, you've got to do this too. This is a good thing. And of course, being a mayor, they listened. So that's how they got together. And the model is very interesting, and it's working very well, because everyone with an interest in the trail is represented, having a voice. They share a lot of information, examples. First thing we did when we built the Via Eurasia was go to southern Italy and see how they work. And that's one of the main objectives of this federation, is share experience, see, look, we tried this, and it worked, or didn't. We tried this, and maybe if you do it a bit like this, it works, that's how it works. I was talking to you about, I forgot the name. No, in Serbia. Bački Monastor. I arrived in Bački Monastor with my wife, and we had accommodation reserved by Maria. She offered bed and breakfast. So we knocked on the door, actually she was in front of the porch, and she said, yeah, that's fine, but I'm full. I said, okay, now that's a problem. No, it's not a problem. I've got a few friends in the village. I'll call one for you, and she will accommodate you. It turned out 5 or 6 widows in the village had come together and said, we're going to do this. We are going to accommodate visitors in our home. We serve them our food. And Maria was actually the key figure who distributed all the guests through the village. Later I found out that the local tourism organization had already set up a website and the organization, and had the ladies get together and talk about the comments they got from the family. Don't do this. You may get someone in your house with bad intentions. You know how people are. And of course they talked it through, and they overcame the anxiety and the fears. Already? So, you know, this is examples that could be shared. If they can do it, why couldn't you do it? If there are enough people in your village, well, I mean, you have these farmhouses, there's a widow, and they have plenty of space, they have a garden, a little income, everything helps.
I don't want to cut you short, but there will be more opportunity at the end, because this is, of course, fascinating to learn. But we have to move, and we go to a very interesting item right now. Dr. Yilmaz.